everyone. It's that time of year again when I raise funds and awareness to help end breast cancer through the Susan G. Komen DMV More Than Pink Walk and Fundraiser. Now, the walk is September 8th, but the fundraiser is now. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what I'm trying to raise this year, but I also want to tell you a little bit more about my story and why I'm raising funds. As you can probably see, I'm wearing a survivor shirt, and as many of you know, I was diagnosed with stage 0 breast cancer in January of 2023. And thankfully, I was cancer-free with my single mastectomy in April of 2023 also. Thankfully, I didn't need further treatment. I'm still working on my reconstructive process, probably just one more procedure to go. And thankfully, I felt great. But I really did, through that experience, come to understand really up close, especially from other breast cancer survivors, the significance of just that diagnosis and how important it is to push for a cure. Now, I did share a video last year through my fundraising. I'm going to link to that video, but I wanted to correct a statement from that. Now, I mentioned the statistic that 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. That statistic is true, but I had noted myself as one of the 1 in 8 women. But it actually turns out that that statistic is actually talking about invasive breast cancer. So that means stage 1 or greater. And invasive just means that cancer was found in the breast tissue. In my case, the breast cancer was just found in the milk duct of my breast and not in the tissue, which made it stage 0. And most often, stage 0 is ductal carcinoma in situ, or DCIS. So if you see DCIS, that's the same thing as stage 0, and that's what I had. But that is still a significant diagnosis, because about 20% of cases of breast cancer each year are stage 0. But that is also promising, because what that means is that there are tens of thousands of people who are being diagnosed with the earliest stage of breast cancer. And the earliest stage means the best prognosis and the least amount of treatment. So that's what we want to push for. And that also brings me to one of my takeaways after having my experience, and that is the importance of all women. If you are eligible for any sort of screening for breast cancer, make sure you get it, because you just never know. You could be completely healthy and end up getting diagnosed with breast cancer, as was the case with me. And I actually want to read something from my mammogram that that has so much more significance for me now since being diagnosed with breast cancer. I had seen it on other people's mammograms, but now that I've had breast cancer, I definitely, again, see that it's very significant. I'm going to read these words. You may have seen them on your mammogram. If your breast imaging shows that your breast tissue is dense, you should know that dense breast tissue is a common finding and is not abnormal, with about half of women having dense or highly dense breasts. Now, most women who fall into the dense category actually are not highly dense. 80% are dense. 20% are highly dense. I found out I fall into that category, and I'm pretty much the highest of the high. However, dense breast tissue can make it harder to find cancer on a breast image and may also be associated with an increased risk of cancer. This information about the results of your breast imaging is given to you to raise your awareness and inform your conversations with your physicians. And so that's really what I wanted to highlight, because, again, breast density is not uncommon, but it can have some significance. And having been diagnosed with breast cancer while I was healthy, and really that came out through everything as my biggest risk factor, I've read on websites such as the CDC that there have been studies that have shown that 4 in 10 cases of breast cancer in young women can be attributed to high breast density. And young women is really anyone under 45 when we're talking about breast cancer. So I did want to note that, because I did not hear about that particular impact before I got my own diagnosis. And as I mentioned in the video, I got my diagnosis on my very first mammogram, and the first year I was eligible for a mammogram. But I just wanted to note that, because I've talked to women who have said that they don't go for their yearly mammograms even though they're eligible, but you just never know. And even in my case, I am actually still not considered high risk for invasive breast cancer, even after having a stage 0 diagnosis. But it is still significant for me. So in my case, because I have had that diagnosis though, based in talking to my doctors, what I get every year now, what I will be getting and did this past year post my diagnosis is not just a mammogram, but also an MRI. So in talking to your doctors, you might find that there are other screenings that you should be getting, maybe a breast ultrasound. Not all insurances will pay for something like an MRI, but at least you can have that conversation and be aware, because again, earlier detection is more likely to preserve your life and put your body through less treatment. So that also brings me to the fundraising. I raised about $11,300 last year because of a lot of you. Thank you again. And that also made me a top area fundraiser, but especially connecting with a lot more breast cancer patients and looking at the work that Komen is doing to help end breast cancer, especially giving grants to hospitals like Hopkins, where I have been treated. I really want to do more. I want to double my fundraising. Now, last year on my video, I asked for at least $10 if you don't know me and $25 if you do. But a lot of y'all, you really showed up for me, and my average donation was $104. So I'm not asking for you to necessarily give $104, give whatever you have. But I would just say, really think big about how you can support this cause. And I would imagine, given the statistic that 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime, that means many more people who are touched by that diagnosis, whether it's a friend, a sister, a mother, a significant other. So let's help end breast cancer together. And for this particular year, I was looking at the statistics that Komen had posted of the expected diagnoses of breast cancer. And the expectation is about 310,000 cases of breast cancer, invasive breast cancer, and I believe about 56,000 cases of stage 0 breast cancer are expected, and about 42,500 deaths are expected. So if we can push for a cure, we can hopefully bring that number to 0 at some point, and hopefully the sooner rather than later. So thank you so much for your support. Please, if you can, donate, tell a friend. And also, if you're in the DMV, join my walk team. I would love to have more people on my team. There's information about that too. So thank you so much for listening, and to ending breast cancer and to breast health.